welcome back to another episode of the G's for Geek podcast.
This is your host, Charlie Radio Williams, and this is Sean Luke.
Welcome back to another episode of the G's for Geek podcast.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the G's for Geek podcast. I'm your host. What are you doing over there?
What?
What are you,
We're on?
Yes, we are on. We are on. Why are you? You're such a savage.
I don't know what you're talking about.
All right, Geektopians. Normally, this is where I do the introduction, but I'm going to have to pause for a minute. For those who are listening, I need to describe to you what's happening. Sean just had his Mighty Fest Bowl. It's like a doggy dish. That he just had whatever he scrapped together, and he literally just devoured it before we came on. What do you have to say for yourself?
I'm hungry. I don't apologize for nothing. Shoot. I do not apologize for anything.
Did you bring any for the Geektopians?
Maybe later on, not now. I mean, obviously I'm in my shack. So, I can't necessarily give people food. Maybe next time. I'll give everyone free cookies.
You're selfish. Just want to let that be said. You're selfish. Now, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of G's for Geek podcast. I'm your host, Charlie Radio Williams.
And this is Sean Luke.
And this is episode 41. Yes, we finally made it into the 40s. Last episode we had on Tone. This episode we have two new guests. This is going to be a double hitter. We have A.A. Rubin. Oh, wow. I am butchering names. Just spoke to them before I sent them to the green room. We have A.A. Rubin and Chris Burgess from CBS, the Comic Book School. You're not going to jump in on me there? You're not going to add anything?
No, go ahead. Let them come in. It's a double. Yo, listen, we got two very talented individuals coming in. I'd rather get it started right away.
All right, so let's bring them in. All right, so we're going to bring them in, and then we're going to do what we normally do, and we're going to get rid of that guy right there because it's not really important that we have him on. And hey, guys, welcome to the show. Wait, let me bring him back in. Oh, there he goes. Okay, there we go. Oh, sorry about that, Sean. My bad.
You better hope I never get the power.
Ooh, the power to turn people off. Yeah.
I already have that power. But anyway, yeah. Hey guys, how are you doing? Welcome to the show. I just go ahead and insulted myself. But how are you guys doing?
Thank you very much for having us. All right. This sounds like it's gonna be great.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us, guys. Thanks for making me hungry. But
oh geez.
I apologize. I do apologize.
It's okay. You're selfish. We know.
Wow.
Just really selfish. Heads up, we have been known to be like a married couple. Just want to set the stage, let you know. Sean is the aggressor here, and I'm more of the peaceful one. But
is it peaceful or is it submissive?
Oh,
would I think? Okay, so I'm going to go there. I guess we're going to start with the rant, ladies and gentlemen. As I am secure with my self, I think I'm more of a bear. People always say I'm the bear, and I'm like, I can see that. I can see I'm the bear. Sean's not my type. He's too much.
Excuse me. As the title reads, I am the Latin lover. I am everyone's type.
You are a heartbreaker. You're a heartbreaker. You crush hearts.
Well, considering the text I got earlier, yeah, you're probably right.
What's this text that you got earlier?
Somebody cursing me out because I never called or texted them back, but it's whatever.
The Geektopians want to know more. Don't
Nah, we got two guests here. We ain't got time for that.
Oh, see.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
All right. Ruining it so far. Okay, guys. How are you guys doing? Let's just start off with some simple questions here. How are you both doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Nobody cares about us. No, we're focused on you guys. Don't be shy.
I'm doing fantabulous. All right. Had a solid day, work day. And I got home, made sure I got here in time so I can hit you guys up on this. And I'm just feeling life.
Oh, that's good.
Respect due.
Today I felt like it was a very long, drawn out day,
Yes.
but I'm glad that we're all here. So I'm going to jump into my official first question. All right, you guys may have never heard this question before, but I think for all
Okay.
dramatic, I got to make it real dramatic. For all dramatic purposes, I'll start with you first, Chris. Are you ready?
Hit me.
You don't seem ready. You seem like you're.
I stay laid back when I'm ready. I'm
right.
good. I'm cool.
Nice.
All right, this is going to be very simple. Who is Chris Burgos?
All right,
you already paused there. Look at that.
There's the gamer thing. See what I just did? I'm gonna go from like where I'm sitting right now with the cool, relaxed to lay back. I'm going to the edge of my seat now because I feel like you gave me a question that's like, all right, I gotta sit up so I can answer right and press the right buttons.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a fun guy. I'm a writer and I am a storyteller and I'm an all-around clown.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's something that I've been doing for years since birth. I tend to think that I've been telling stories and joking around and having fun. And as of this point in time, I am currently also a martial arts instructor. My full-time real gig during the day, and at night is when I turn into my comic writer mode. And that's pretty much how deep you want it. How deep?
I mean, how deep are you willing to go? I mean, we could do.
Oh my God, guys! This is a family show.
Yeah, but we can do a deep talk therapy. Come on, Sean. Come on.
Well, you know, if the questions come, I can facilitate. But yeah, that's pretty much me in a bucket. I like telling stories and having fun.
How often do you get asked who is Chris Burgos? I like your name.
Oh, thank you. Are you ready for this?
Yes.
My name was almost Conan.
Oh.
What?
Like, hold up, that's right. And not after, I'm not, a baby. I've been around for a minute. And so this was before Conan, O'Brien. Mm-hmm. My dad was like seriously about to try to get me to be called like Conan as in the Barbarian. And my mom was not having it. And she was like, "You are not naming our kid Conan the Barbarian. There's something wrong with you." And my dad, he gave in, but it was almost Conan. I was like, you know what? That would have been real dope. But Chris with a K. I'm actually Christopher with PH, not an F. So yeah, that's where I ended up. And for those that don't know, Burgos is if there's any historians out there that I butcher this. Okay. This is what I've been told my whole life. Burgos is the second largest city in Spain. Used to be the former capital of the country way back when. And so Burgos is actually a really, regal name. So there, if you like my name, okay, there.
All right. So now, before I jump to Ruben, Ari, I'm all over the place. I got to stop that. I'm sorry. Chris, I have to ask you a question. I think the Geektopians want to know this, right? One, can I talk to your dad for a moment? Just want to look at the screen and talk to your dad for a moment.
Okay, it's just talking to him.
All right. Mr. Burgos. Conan, awesome name. We get it. You didn't get away with it. But you could have gave it to him as a nickname. Can you imagine your son in school?
That could have been his middle name.
Yeah. Imagine your son in school.
Conan Burgos. That's perfect.
Yeah. Your son in
that
school.
Would have been dope.
Walking up to the ladies. What's your name? Conan. Just awesome.
Awesome.
Conan. We're watching you, Dad. We're watching you.
All right. Hey, thank you. I believe he felt that. He definitely felt that.
I'm happy he felt that. I hope one day when you come over to the house, Thanksgiving, Christmas, whatever, he's like, "Hey, Conan," and you get that glimmer, the glimmer in his eye. Yeah, he's like, "Yeah, that's right. From now on, between me and you, father to son, Conan." He holds it.
I will accept that, and I will definitely take it.
As long as it's Conan with a K.
With the
ooh, now you're going into uncharted territory right there. Yeah. Okay. All right.
But that's kind of suave, isn't it? Like you walk in a room, somebody's like, "Hey, what's your name? What's that guy's name?" He's like, "Conan." Pause for a minute. with a K. You see how that just comes across?
I do that as it is now.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, "What's your name?" I'm like, "Chris."
Nah, but see, Chris is your like daytime Bruce Wayne.
Oh, so this is gonna be my Latin lover name.
Yeah,
Yes.
pretty much. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
okay,
This is what he's
sounds
saying.
good.
Yeah. When you're at
I'll do it.
cons, there's going to be those who are like, "Oh, that's Chris Burgess, writer, creator," but then everybody else in the scene is going to be like, "Yo, that's Conan with a K." You see how smooth that is?
That's
When you're at
real
the
cool.
bar,
Can we continue?
right. I'm gonna get you a shirt that says Conan with a K on the back. Yeah.
Oh
All
Lord.
right. All right. AA. So we've spoken to you before, but I'm going to ask you the same question in the same format. Who is AA Rubin?
A.A. Rubin is a writer, a teacher, also a martial artist,
Mhm.
a father. And, it's actually a pen name, but it's my real name. So that's interesting. My real name's Ari Alexander Rubin, but it got shortened to A.A. Rubin for search engine optimization purposes. But like Chris, I've been doing martial arts my whole life. I'm my day job a high school English teacher, although I'm on childcare leave now to take care of my son. My father wanted to name me Ezekiel.
That's another good name.
That's a great name.
Because in the Bible, in the book of Ezekiel, whenever like God is mad at Ezekiel a lot, and whenever he's mad at him, he goes, "Son of man," and he yells at him. And he wanted to be able to do that whenever he was mad at me. My mom also said no. Didn't stop him, by the way, when he was mad to say that, like she should have known. But actually, so my name real name Ari actually means lion in Hebrew. So it's actually a regal name as well, I guess. I right now I take care of my kids a lot of time during the day, and then I write and create and do that kind of thing at night, and try to hold it all together. Yeah.
Real quick, your answer was a lot more put together than my answer.
That's because I had time to think about it.
You did. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
so I give you the advantage. I gave you the advantage.
But
that was good.
So wait, before I just need to ask, right, Charles? I need to ask: is your name based off of what your father's request was, or your mother's?
Who, radio or
no, Charlie? Obviously not radio.
So my name is weird. My mom wanted to name me Lorenzo after my dad. And what happened was, this is going to sound really horrible. My aunt, who I don't know if anybody in my family's watching this, I hope not. My aunt named her son Lorenzo. I've never questioned that. But because when I tell this story, that part always, like, as I get older, I'm
family
like,
drama. I am sorry I brought this up.
Let me get the popcorn out.
And then the weird story to it is, I don't want to butcher this. Michael Landon played a character on Little House on the Prairie named Charles Ingalls. Yes. I hope I'm correct, right? So my mom, who really loved Michael Landon when he played Little Joe on Bonanza, and then she followed him when he played on Highway to Heaven. She liked the name Charles Ingalls when he was on Little House on the Prairie. So when she had me, she named me Charles. You know?
Okay.
But if it was up to me, I would be like a G.I. Joe character, and I would have a name like Falcon. If it was
Snake Eyes.
Yeah. Like Silver Wolf. I don't know. G.I. Joe was just fun as a kid. I just always wanted one of those.
I wasn't allowed to watch it.
What?
You know what? I'm an 80s baby, and I was not allowed to watch G.I. Joe. It's the gun violence.
You know what? We had the same thing. We had the same thing, Chris. I wasn't allowed to have the toys. And when my friends played G.I. Joe, came over to my house, brought their G.I. Joes, I had to do two things. I had plenty of Legos, and I build the ships with the guns and the lasers and all that kind of thing. And my dad would ask me, "What kind of ship is that you buy?" I was like, "Oh yeah, that's a mining ship. That big laser's like."
Jeez.
Yeah.
And this is how we become writers, because we have to.
You have to be creative to hide stuff from your parents.
Yeah.
Geektopians. I just want to say, Geektopians. The perfect excuse for this would have been, "Hey, Mom, before you get mad at the idea of guns, like the A team. They shoot a lot, but nobody ever gets hit. No one. No one ever gets hit.
You know what?
No one.
It's
I
like,
mean,
you know, any Star Wars thing.
occasionally a Cobra grunt would get hit.
No.
Yeah.
You know?
A red
Oh,
shirt, a
robots,
red shirt.
yeah.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
You know?
But they wouldn't die. Like they'd just be on the ground unconscious from the laser hit.
Or the better comparison would be like, Mom, it's like watching a movie about stormtroopers. Whole lot of shooting, no one getting shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so based on your answer, I can officially say that I'm the only person in this room that my father actually got to name.
Latin lover.
Okay.
No.
Your dad named you Latin lover. He saw you at birth and he was like,
I mean, he does call me a whore from time to time, but not for that reason.
your birth
Okay.
was like the Lion King. Like your dad held you up. You know, he took a swipe of the blood, put it on your forehead. You know, and he was like, my son,
The whore? Like
the Latin lover.
this is what we do, guys. I apologize in
Yeah,
advance.
don't apologize. They knew what they were getting into. All right, I told them to listen to the show. This is what's going to happen. This was all right. We'll move to the second question. All right.
Ari's going first.
I'm going to start this one with Ari first. All right, Ari. What are the pros and cons? All right, so I'm going to read this the way I wrote it first because originally this was for Chris, but then I'm going to change it. Original question was, what are the pros and cons of being Chris Burgess? But we're just going to say, Ari, what is the pros and cons of being Ari?
The pros and cons of being me.
Mhm.
Well, I would say that the pros of being me is that I never forgot how to play,
Okay.
and being creative, being being a writer, but also being a teacher, being a father, and all that. It all involves creativity, and I feel like one of the biggest, like I feel spreadsheet. Chris is going to be mad at me because he's the project manager for comic book school, and he has to be involved in all those kinds of things. But like a spreadsheet looks like a jail to me. It's just straight bars. Like I need, chaos. You got to thrive in chaos. You got to surf the wave of entropy. Write it out. You can't. One thing I learned in physics, I'm not very good at physics, but chemistry. Right? One thing I learned in chemistry was entropy is inevitable. You might as well surf it out. So you get that kind of thing with me. The cons being me, I overthink things.
Analytical.
And I see my own plot holes. I see everything I makes it very difficult to get things, like for me to actually get over my inertia and get things going is difficult. It takes me a long time to get started on something. I need to I do tend to overthink things a lot, and I would say that's probably the biggest con.
And Chris Conan Burgess. Same question. What are the pros and cons of being Chris the Conan? Can we add a the there? The Conan Burgess.
I can do that.
Oh, you were gonna do it?
I mean, no. You know what? It's all good. Do whatever you want because I like it anyway. It's cool. It makes me feel warm.
Yeah. I see you at NYCC 20 this year. Like, hey, that's that Chris? Is that Conan? Oh, shit. People are like, is that O'Brien? No, with the K.
That's going to be the draw at the comic school booth in Artist Alley. Is going to be we have Conan.
We got Conan. Yeah, and I'm gonna stand there all stoic and stuff with like I'm gonna get one of massive swords and like an axe. And one of the other vendors that is obviously selling them like around NYCC. I'm just gonna stand there with them and be like, what?
Well, and that's why you have to add the in front now. Yeah. You have to add the so you stand out.
Okay, all right.
So same question. What are the pros and cons of being Chris Burgess?
What stinks about this question is that Ari did go first, and mine's going to sound very similar. So now I'm like, I had time to think about it, but I'm like, I'm the same damn person. You know what? I like to have fun too. I like to play. I like to be creative. That is definitely the pro. The pro is I'm a child at heart, and I do my absolute best to not take too much seriously. When I want to get serious and do things, I can still be creative and I can still think outside the box and I can still, go out there with my ideas and everything. And it's not just like with writing, it's pretty much with anything. I like to think outside the box for a lot of stuff. And it kind of keeps me like, I know that Ari, you said, you're not a fan of the structure. I'm actually not a fan of the structure either. I force it on myself, but I know it's going to like completely turn to nothing. And structures for me, you get very chaotic. And so the cons for me are knowing that I can let things fall apart. If I let things fall apart, it could be, I can turn things into a chaotic situation pretty quickly. The cool thing is that you go back to my pros, is like, I'm very creative. So once chaos does hit me, I can pick things right up. I can get right back into, feeling good about stuff and, put myself in a situation where I can turn it into a positive.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this next question is actually for both of you, and it's going to be a runoff of what you guys both said. So, and it's going to be a two-part. So the first one is your similarities in the sense of imagination, something that even myself as a person who titles himself as an artist, whether if it's illustrating or just being in mixed medium, I never understood as I was getting older, why is it that for some adults they lose their imagination, or it seems like adults lose their imagination. And I started realizing that more creative people, in my opinion, have a sense of imagination because it ties in to that uniqueness gift, whether if it's dance, music. So in your guys like perspective, like why do you think like we like some adults kind of lose that perspective of what is imagination? See, that was a hard-hitting question. That was a deep one.
It was deep. You want it, Ari, or you want me to go first?
I went first last time, Chris. It's your turn.
Oh my God.
Okay. All right. So you can give me the hard ones. All right.
I'm a counter puncher by style. I like to win.
Feel free to use movies like Hook and all of them, for visual references.
Ari's gonna wait until you go, and then he's gonna be like, "Your judge, I have a rebuttal."
Yeah. It's really sad that I kind of think that's the truth too. How like a lot of people, they tend to look at life as they get older and more mature. They tend to think that everything's on the line, like their livelihood, their whether or not they're making a paycheck, they're paying for mortgages, cars, whatever, and they take things very seriously. And a lot of people, because of that, they're so focused in and dialed in on what they need to survive and keep life good or well for themselves or whatnot. They do lose a lot of that magic touch, in my opinion. All right, this coming from a 36-year-old who just got married last year or whatnot. I do believe that the maturity causes some level of creativity to go out the window. That being said, though, for the people that are creative, the people that can still connect to their creative side, I tend to think that comes from having an overactive brain. Honestly, an overactive mind. If you think of something like you look at a lot of creatives, artists, writers, whatever, musicians, they'll see something happen and they can visualize in their head consequences, or they'll visualize in their head, what if this happens to that person while that's going on right now? Or, like that game that people play. I don't know why they play it, like the airport or whatever. And they're looking at everyone else at the airport sitting around. It's like, oh, where's that person going? And they're all like got their gear and their pack. It's like, oh, well, that person, they're definitely off to go fight the wolves in Alaska. So, and they think of crazy, stupid stories, but it's like, oh, I'm picturing what's going on for that person. And so if you've got that active mind and you're constantly looking at everything around you and not necessarily analyzing it, but thinking about the world behind it, that tends to lead to a lot of creativity. And there are some people that just don't care. They're just like, oh, that person, that's just a person sitting there. It's like, doesn't matter. It's like, they're not bothering me. I'm not bothering them, whatever. But like an artist or a creative in general, they'd be like, that person sitting there, they've had a dark history. They're ready to go out and kill somebody. You can see it, you can see it on their shoulder, you know?
Like, damn.
Yeah.
It's not nice to talk about my psycho ex like that.
Yeah. You read a lot of Chris's work. He's got a lot of that dark stuff
I like
going
it.
on. Yeah.
I like it dark. I like it dark. But I like, unicorns, especially when you're wrestling them.
See, I can see it now. Like late at night, you're in the room typing, the lights off. Your wife comes in, turns on the light. You're like,
yeah, it's easy. She's like, put it away, Chris.
Then, I would say though that a lot of it comes from as people get older, and I see this a lot of times as a teacher also, is that people want to conform, and then they're afraid to be different than everybody else, and they're afraid of the consequences. And even as they get older, even the nonconformists start conforming. So, you're going to be a nonconformist. You're going to be. I had a professor in college. He a literature professor. He was. His name was Edward Mendelsohn. He was the literary executor of the poet Auden's estate, and he used to say this all the time. It's like, you get these people, they come into my class and they think they're nonconformists, but all the goths dress like the other goths, and all the punks dress like the other punks, and all the artists and the poets, they got the hat, and everybody, even when you're nonconforming, you're conforming. Like, people at some point, they want to fit in, and they want to, they get the job, and they're worried about, how they got to dress at the job, or how they got to act, and among their peer group, and all this other kind of, all this stuff, and they forget to be themselves, and they start defining themselves based off of external things rather than internal things. If I'm gonna go there, and I think that creative people, and I think this is where a lot of the anxiety with creative people comes in, because it's a lonely thing when you're writing. It's they read a thing, or you're drawing, or making music, or whatever you're doing. People say that, yes, we want to communicate with millions of people by locking ourselves in the room for our entire life to write to write the great American novel and never speak to anyone. So there's that disconnect between that aloneness and then that need for community, or that need for acceptance. And when things like, you get things like peer pressure, and you get things like, and even within like you read about, advice given to creative people, and it's all the same. And like 80% of it is telling you to do the same thing. And you know what? If you write like everybody else, if you follow the advice and you write like everybody else, you're going to end up sounding like everybody else. You paint like everybody else, you're going to look like, your stuff's going to look like everybody else. You want to be Picasso, is going to look different, right? You think about someone's art who becomes that person, they're going to be different at some point. They learn how to do it like everybody else at some point, right? You have to learn the technique, and you got to learn the skills and all that kind of stuff, but you also have to dare to be you, and to follow your vision. And it's creative people, not just in artistic fields, but like Albert Einstein said that imagination was the most important thing. And if you think, right, he came up with a theory that thought about the world and the universe in a way that nobody else thought of it. And he would hang out with artists. I saw recently he liked Alexander Calder, who was a French artist, that said the guy who made the mobiles. And there was a show of Calder's in the MoMA over the summer, and there was one piece called The Universe that he made, that was these two spheres, and they rotate around each other around the circle thing. And it said on the gallery card, like if you read it, it said Albert Einstein saw it, and he said, "I wish I thought of that." He was trying to get into that artist mindset as well. And I think that's it. Like, you have to be in touch with the world, or your stuff, you want to be relevant, but at the same time, I feel like people give in to peer pressure, and they give in to conformity even when they think they're rebelling. And I think that's what keeps a lot of people from being creative. They're scared to be.
Do you guys think that that's a part of our society? Because I know, like, something that I learned in junior high school is no matter how much you want to break away from society, you're always a part of society. You can never break away from the whole, from the collective. So do you think that it's more of the way that our society norm is, that there's always, as much as we want to be unique, we're always following a generic trope? Sean, you can answer that too, Sean.
Yeah.
Oh no,
Yeah,
my
yeah.
question was going to be a lot deeper than that. My
Oh.
question was, in this society as it stands now, with the fact of people even being people of non-conformity being conformists, what, as far as artists are concerned, what is the definition of individuality then?
You know, you just have to. It's like you know it when you got to know it yourself. You got to be true to yourself. You know, I had a friend years ago. I had a friend, and he was like the original goth, like that. That's who he was. And at some point in the early 2000s, that became really trendy, and everyone else started to dress like him and look like him and all that kind of
Mhm.
stuff, listen to the same music he was listening to because it had its moment where it became popular. And he said, you know, to stop doing it now because it's popular it'd be just as bad as to start doing it because it was popular.
Mm.
You know, so you know, you just got to be yourself, and you know, don't you know, it'll get there. It'll get there eventually. You know, um, you're aware of it, and that I think that's why so many creative people have anxiety about it. And that's also one of the great things about about what we have with comic book school also is that with the message boards and with the community that we have, you can connect with other people, and you can connect with other people who are also creative, who are also
Like-minded.
doing the same thing. And even if they're not, even if they're telling completely different types of stories than you are, even if their art style is completely different from yours, you are, you know, you are going through the same thing that they are
Mm.
in your own way, so that you find yourself a community. It forces people together from these different corners where they might be conforming as non-conform, but then they're forced to encounter somebody else who might be doing something different, and then that might make you see things in a different way. You know,
So I do have this question because I thought about
Wait,
this.
let Chris answer
Oh,
too.
No. He did it good. He did a really good
I'm
job. I
sorry.
completely agree. And I concur. Oh,
He
okay.
put the check.
No, yeah.
I would send myself to the back, but power. See, after so what I was gonna say is, so something that I struggled with a few years ago, because I come to terms with my own illustration style, is that, and I think in the relation of like conformity versus identity, that when you're an artist, you tend to deal with that idea of identity through your artwork, because you're around other people and you're either soaking up what they do or you're soaking up the work that people who inspire you do. And slowly from the back of your head to the front of your head, you start to think, well, what is my own style? And I think the reason that question comes up is because behind that question, you're actually asking, what is my identity? But from a creative level. So have you guys ever experienced that with your own work, whether if it's writing or illustrating? Have you ever experienced that thought where you're like, what is my identity in my artwork, and found yourself relating it to your own personal lives?
Every day. You know what? I tend to follow some of my absolute favorite writers are like Robert E. Howard, which is why I love Conan. I love Stephen R. Donaldson, Tolkien. I think for writers, especially, you have to read and you have to understand what's going on in the world, as far as the world of literature, whatever genre you're into or whatnot. And being able to absorb various styles and absorb different idea perspectives and how to tell a story it has to mold you as an individual on its own. But then branching off is harder, in my opinion. To become an individual is harder for a writer than it is for an artist. And I'm not an artist, but I'm going to defend that statement. So y'all get ready. All right. As an artist, okay, you look at someone like, let's look at anybody that came after Ditko, or anyone that came after, King, Jack Kirby. All right. Everyone had those guys to, be inspired by. For an artist, you are inspired by somebody's artwork. You kind of like do something similar. Then it's like, okay, well, what if I jazz it up with a little bit of this? And the what you do to it to make it your own is kind of accepted as a stylistic change that's through a visual medium. Okay. And there's no rules against it. You can't say that's wrong because visually it looks different and it has a funky look to it. And it might not be the exact same thing as like Rob Liefeld, but that those chests and shoulders and everything, you looking brolic. So you know how to draw the human body. It's only wrong if the person's got, 16 abs as opposed to 8 or 6. With writing, it's harder to do that because there are rules to writing. And the rules to writing, a lot of people feel have to be conformed to in the way that you write. I feel like I'm starting to babble a little bit, but it's like when it comes to writing, I feel like that having your own style is more along how you place the words together and how it sounds as you read it and how it sounds coming into your head. And it's more of like a understanding thing than it is a visual, triggering like art, like a traditional art is. Does that make sense?
No, that does make.
Yeah. Don't listen. Speak your mind. Say what you got to say. We're here to hug and cherish you no matter what you say.
Right. And I'm looking at Ari right now. I'm just like, Ari, I'm sorry if I'm wrong. Because he is, he's a teacher and he teaches this kind of stuff. And it's like, what?
Ari, go ahead.
I gotta say that they always tell you in England, the joke about English class, there's no wrong answers in English class. That's actually not true. There are wrong answers in English class. But there are many right, but there are many right answers too. So the difference is there's not just one right answer. There's many right answers. And I think that the problem a lot of people have with style is that they don't read outside their genre, or that they don't read widely enough or listen widely enough. And when someone comes in that's original, often they're bringing things from another tradition, a different either a different background, a different literary tradition, a different cultural tradition, different experience that they have that people may not have read before. But I think that it is possible to develop a unique style, and there are writers who are known for their style, even who are writing it. Like you take like a Hemingway and a Faulkner, right? That they're known for their opposite styles, right? At the same time, or Hemingway and a Fitzgerald, right? Who are very different from each other, even though they're writing at the same time. You get people who, I read a Kurt Vonnegut novel, and I know it's a Kurt Vonnegut novel. I don't have to read the title on the page. I read a Charles Dickens novel. I know that's a Charles Dickens novel. I'm not going to mistake a Charles Dickens novel for a Kurt Vonnegut novel. I mean, there's a few hundred, time periods different, but I'm not going to mistake, say, a Charles Dickens novel for a Jane Austen novel either. Even though they're written roughly around the same time. There are ways to make your writing unique, and there are people have you get these you get people who don't write like everybody else, and you get people who can write, and the thing is, it's hard to do that because it takes a long time. Usually they don't do that right away. Usually what happens is they write like everybody else until they don't, and then eventually as their art goes on, they become a caricature of themselves. They write too much like themselves, and it becomes kind of they become a cliche of their own thing that made them unique.
Okay.
You see that all the time. You see somebody like, going back, I'm still staying in literature for now, but like someone like James Joyce, where you read his early stuff, like his Dubliners, they're really good short stories, they're very conventional. You read something like Ulysses, then it's like this great, everybody's saying it's one of the top books of the century. It's completely unique. No one ever done anything like that before. There's all these different styles and everything like that. And then you get Finnegan's Wake, and it's completely incomprehensible. I don't care what anyone says. Like you shouldn't have to read. You shouldn't have to read 5 books as long as the book you're reading just to understand what's going on. Like that shouldn't happen because the problem is you become too much of yourself. Like, and I think it happens in comics too. You get something like Alan Moore, and there's a period of greatness, and then you have to live up to that, right? And there's a period before that too, where he wasn't as unconventional, right? And then you got his like golden era where you have like Watchmen and V for Vendetta and all Vendetta and all the stuff everybody knows, and then it gets right. Whatever happens to him happens, and it's not the same anymore. I still think it's really interesting. Like his prose novel, Jerusalem, that was the longest novel in English, was like the 4th longest novel in any language ever written. I think by the time he was done. I thought that was really interesting. I enjoyed reading it, but it's not going to be the same like thing like Watchmen was, right? Eventually, you become, it's hard to keep that up. But I think a lot of people, what they do is they try to level jump, right?
Okay.
Picasso said, "You want me to teach you to paint like me?" Right? And he's someone who had an individual style. He's like, first learn how to paint traditionally, and then. After you know all that technique, then I could teach you what I'm actually doing, because you won't really get it until you know. And then people start trying to, to paint like that. Or, Chris, sorry, always confuses me on the cameras. Yeah.
Me too.
Chris also a martial artist, and one of the martial arts that I study is Jeet Kune Do, which is Bruce Lee's martial art, and Bruce Lee moving beyond form and moving beyond the traditional styles. And I've read a lot of his stuff, and people misinterpret it, right? They say, oh, it means, no style, right? To have no style. You can't break the style until you have a style to break, right? You need, like, in the beginning, he was doing Wing Chun, with a very traditional style. Certain experiences in his life showed him certain weaknesses in what he was doing, and he starts researching other styles. And he learns from the best people. I mean, he happened to have the celebrity where he had access to the best people in other styles. So he goes and he wants to learn. It's like, hey, those Taekwondo guys have really good kicks. I should go study with Junri, and I should also go to southern France and learn Savat from the guys and we got all his low kicks from. And he's like, Wing Chun doesn't have a hook punch. That seems to be a problem. I'm going to study with Western boxers. I'm going to take footwork from fencers. But you have to learn how to do all these things properly before he could transcend it and be Bruce Lee with no style and formless and adapting to what everybody else is doing. You try to do that. You even take an average black belt in any style. They try to do that. They're going to get the crap kicked out of them, right? Because they don't have the skill that he developed over time in order to be ready to do that. And I think it's the same in creative fields where people get caught up trying to get there without learning necessarily the skills that they need in whatever their medium is.
So let's talk about basics for a second, since right now that's kind of what we're talking about. Like you need to know the basics before you can kind of find yourself. So for both of you, what was the pivotal moment that you guys realized, with your background in writing, that you guys realized this is the identity of what I want or who I am as a writer? Like, when was the moment that you guys realized out of the basics that you have learned and out of the influence of what you were following that you decided, hey, this is the moment that you're realizing this is my style? This is my identity.
He's sending off.
He's like, haha, you get the hard question first.
No, for me, it's
that one was easy
because I I write across a lot of different genres. Write across a lot of different mediums. I do comics with obviously on here for comic book school, but I also, the last thing that I had come out is formal rhyming poetry. I have something in a prose horror anthology coming out. I have I write literary fiction, science fiction, fantasy, comic books, poetry, all this different kind of stuff. So, and I have I have this kind of dark gothy kind of mode to some of my writing, and then I have a very more satirical mode, more humorous satirical mode to a lot of my other writing. And it's hard for me to they say everything, it goes back to the conforming thing, is like the branding discussion is always very difficult for me. Like, what are you putting out there? Because I write a lot of different things, and because I write in a lot of different styles. But I think that as I was thinking about it, there were a few things that end up right. Like I also always have that one thing that I'm always doing, whether I'm writing seriously or not, is playing with the tropes and the conventions. And there is a retro style, but it's like a meta retro style, I would say. So it's something where I'm aware of the tropes that I'm writing, and then I am doing something different with them. Like, I'm almost relying on them to twist them in a way. So with my story in the comic book school anthology, the Mr. Stupendous story that I have in this anthology, it's jumping around to a bunch of different time periods, and like almost like an homage to various. We have a golden age page, we have a silver age page, we have a far future anime page, that kind of thing. But it's not taking it entirely seriously, right? I'm not mimicking that page. It's kind of making fun of that a little bit as well, So, or if I'm writing a poem, I write a lot of I was just in a journal that was Edgar Allan Poe, and you can't write something that's exactly like Edgar Allan Poe, but you need to be aware of it, and then use that to put a spin on it. Use the reader's expectation to kind of spin those things into something unique, into something that's different, rather than trying to build it all from scratch, I would say. And I'd say that's probably what goes through it. And I think actually what made me think about it the most, and now I'm the one rambling, is the whole, because I'm so diverse in the different things that I write, is when things started to go online, and when it started with social media and websites and going on shows, and everybody's like, you need an author brand. Like, what's going to be my author brand? I write all this different kinds of thing. That's when I really had to start thinking about it. And I wasn't conscious of it before. I was just writing what I wanted to write and seeing what happened. And I thought, yeah, if I want to write this, I'd be successful doing that. If I want to do that, to varying degrees, so it was really thinking about how I was going to present myself as an artist and as a writer, that I hadn't really thought about that for most of the time I was writing, until the last few years.
Good. My turn.
Yeah.
All right. Well, no. What's amazing listening to Ari is he's extremely eloquent when it comes to eloquent and knowledgeable of the history of a lot of different stuff. Excuse me. And so, like, sometimes he's saying stuff.
I'm putting the G in geek, Chris. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes he's saying stuff, and it's just like, I'm like, that's what it's like to be a real teacher. Dang. All right. Because sometimes I'm just like, God, man, you are smart. Honestly, developing my own style and realizing I had a style happened many moons ago, like years and years ago, because I didn't learn traditional writing at first. In like middle school, high school, and everything, I was a science and math geek. And I had a teacher that ruined it for me in high school. And so I went to art school. And It was bad. It was bad. It was rough. And so, I ended up at an art school where I did not learn traditional writing. I learned screenwriting. And so I focus a lot on characters and their voices. And a lot of my style is being able to tell the differences between characters and how they're speaking and everything. And that's a lot of like the stuff that I pay attention to because I care about it. I can't stand if people are talking the same in every single book, movie, comic. If every character sounds like any character could be saying the same thing, it sounds boring to me. So I do my absolute best to make sure that the characters have different voices. And when it comes to like the style of writing I do my best to kind of like do stuff I care about. Like Ari said, I do have a dark side. A lot of my stuff is horror based or dark fantasy or something like that. And the overall voice that I've built over the years is something I realized that I kind of had a long time ago that I just refined over the years. Does that make sense? So like, I can tell you the script that got me into film school was like your Kevin Smith style, like quippy kind of, a bunch of stoners show up at a Burger King. And they're just a bunch of jerkwads to everybody in the restaurant. And it's just like a 10-minute little thing that I put together where at the end they pay for it by getting ran over by a truck. And so they were like, how bad they were? They were one of the two guys is staring at the this kid's like Happy Meal or whatever, and is like staring at the toy, and he steals the kid's toy while the mom's not watching. So the kid's like going bananas, like, oh, he's like, oh, it's mine, kid, get away. And so seeing these guys do the kind of dirty things that they do, it's like they got to pay for it. And at the end, I get them, they're pulling out and they get ran over by a truck, and it's like, oh, that's very Chris. It's like,
quick question. Where do me and Sean audition for this, for these roles?
You know what?
Where do we audition?
Anytime you want. Well, you know what? We'll find. You want to be an artist on it?
I do film, so we will direct it and shoot it.
I have dabbled in multiple acting gigs, so I'm just saying. I don't know about Charles over there, but I've actually been on film more than once. So
well, he's the diva.
The diva, gotcha. So which one of you guys would jack a kid's toy from their Happy Meal?
Yes,
sweet. All right, roll
quickly in the quickness.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of like I've written it if like something dark happens to somebody being a jerk.
Okay.
So I know the next question was we were going to ask what were the biggest hurdles and challenges that you continue to face or have faced along the road, but I feel like you guys have answered it, right? So the question I just want to ask is you guys are both married, one more recent than the other, so congratulations. Right? How do you maintain that Holmes lifestyle while still trying to have that strong creative like life,
before you answer that, ladies and gentlemen, this is the segment of the show where we go into the R's for romance. This is the R's for romance segment, Geektopians. So for those Geektopians out there who are married and creative, listen very carefully to what these
guys might be able to save your marriage. Who knows?
Yeah. Don't put all that pressure on them to save marriages.
You know what helps a lot. What helps a lot is having the push, and I tell this to everybody. Joining CBS community like a year and a half ago when I did for the first anthology that we did, along with creating Tales Beyond, which is my own label, has all been a push from my wife. She's the one that basically said, do it. Buddy Scalera, he reached out to me or whatnot to get me on the anthology, saying, "Hey, if you want to do this, do this." But I was kind of like, should I or whatnot? And having that wife that will kick my tail, saying, "You're a good writer, do it," has been a really solid push. And to stay creative, now we own our own, label, Tales Beyond, and she's always like, "When's the next comic coming? When's the next book you're gonna put out, or what are you working on now?" So it's great having that motivation. So if you definitely have that motivation, it's a really good setup. But as far as like self-motivation goes, if you're honestly hungry about telling your own stories, it should be easy. Like I'm being a writer, I can't go out and draw my own stuff, but it's not going to stop me from writing and continuing the story that I'm telling. And one day I will find an artist to put it together for me, or one day I will sell my idea as like a script for a film or a TV show. What matters is that you have to be passionate. And if you're passionate and you want to tell your stories, like that's the whole reason why I do it. I love talking. I love telling stories. I have crazy, insane ideas. And I know people will listen to me and like them and everything. I just have to get them out there. And so that's my own motivation to just put it down on something. Throw it on the computer, on the iPad or whatever, write it. And that's how I stay creative, by wanting to entertain people and tell what's in my head.
Okay.
Ari?
My turn. So I've been married. Just had our 10th wedding anniversary a while ago. We're at 11. So we are, and I'd say that my wife reads everything I write, and she reads it before anyone else does, and she is my alpha reader, my proofreader, all of that kind of thing. And it does help that she's a writer. She's a journalist. She was a journalist by trade, and then she's now a communications person she's the head of communications for the New York Public Library. So she knows about these things. You guys know, if you've ever written anything, that I consider myself, I'm a pretty good editor, a pretty good proofreader. You can never do your own stuff. You will miss stuff in your own stuff. So before anyone else sees it, she sees it, and that's a big thing. Just even to have, to have that, and have her willing to do that. I'm interested. But what I was saying before about her, about being a kid, staying a kid, she's like that as well. Probably more than me, at least exteriorly more than me. I tend to be quieter. But she is like that all the time. We're always bantering with each other, and we're always like, going back and forth and things like that. And just that playful nature lets you do it. In terms of family stuff, though, and then it's the same thing with the kids. Like, on the one hand, it's really good to be around kids if you're creative, because they're really creative, and they like to play, and you see things in different ways. On the other hand, it also does take away from your time that you have to be creative. So I usually don't even get to start writing until 11, 12 at night, and then I have to be up, take the kids to school, and when you have to be out of the house by 6. So you got to carve out your time for it, and that's just the reality. The more obligations you have, the less time that you'll have, but the more you'll have to actually sacrifice other things to make the time for your creative thing. Because what you need, and I say, you just need time to sit down and do it, right? And even if they go to bed, right, I need like half an hour after they've gone to bed before I'm ready to actually sit down and do any serious creative work. And you need to find that. And I've always been a late night person, and that's just me. Other people do it early in the morning, but you're going to end up doing it late at night or early in the morning, because you're not going to have any other time to do it. Between most of us have to have day jobs, we have family responsibilities, all of that kind of thing. You're going to need to find time for that, and it's important to be able to find time for that, and not take away from the other things. Because if your creative stuff comes in conflict with your family stuff, then you're going to have problems with both of them. right? So you're gonna need to find that time where you're able to do it, and to be conscious of doing it, and make sure you're doing the things that you need to do. Like there was a time a couple of weeks ago where, you know, it's the pandemic. There's not people are home. The schedules are all off. My son decided he's going to stay up till midnight every night. That's a
Oof.
problem. I can't write when my son's up to midnight. But what can I, what am I going to do? It's like, I found out I could send off submissions while he's awake. I'm not going to sit down and be able to write, but I can still do something that's there. I could send off submissions. I can go, I could be on the comic book school message boards as I'm putting him to bed, like on my phone or whatever, and talk about things and talk about ideas, that kind of thing. There are other things you can do, right? And you have to find times to do the things that you need to do creatively, and still be able to take care of your family and your obligations, and that type of thing as well.
I completely understand, and I know what that's like, because when Sean stays up to like 1 a.m, I'm like, I can't do this. But it's promo time. Ladies and gentlemen, Geektopians, this episode is brought to you by Sleepy Time Big Boy Tea. For that tea that you need to put the big boy to sleep. Sometimes when I'm having a hard time with Sean, I just pour a glass of Big Boy Sleepy Time tea, and I put him right to sleep. Yeah, that was my promo. Since somebody commented about the Reverend what is it, the pastor book that you put out there?
Yes, last week the pastor, Pastor Charles Williams, with his verses and idioms. So we're gonna go. Okay,
So
I apologize to you too. Every week we pull out
now.
fake product placements.
Yes.
Right, and this all started because he wanted me to wear Speedos.
Oh, thank you for bringing it up. Geektopians, don't forget, this may be your last week to get your exclusive Sean Luke Speedos. They come in 3 different colors: neon pink, tree green, and what is it, midnight purple, with the Sean Luke trade stamp of approval with his face on the back. That's Sean Luke Speedos. Get them here. Get them now. Don't worry, we're going to start adding graphics for the YouTubers so that they can see the graphics of all of this.
Disturbing, just know that. So yeah, all right, so this is something that now that you guys talked about it, I want to actually dive in real quick more. What is the comic book school, and how would you define it in about like 3 words?
Say it with your chest. Say it with your chest, because this whole time they keep saying CBS, they keep saying comic book school. The Geektopians want to know what comic book school is. Say it with your chest. Say it, Sean, with your chest. Ask them that question again.
The comic book school. What is it?
Thank you.
3 words.
Yep.
Free comics education. That'd be the 3-word answer. If you want the longer answer,
of course, an English teacher would literally figure it out. Like,
yeah. I was gonna say killer comic community.
Oh, I like his. I like his answer.
Yeah. It's and the long form answer is a combination of both. It is a free community to be active in, where everyone is a comic nerd of some kind, whether or not you are an artist or a writer or an editor. People get on, they talk about their comics, they talk about, we throw out like prompts sometimes to get people talking and stuff. We also I've put together this amazing anthology. Now we're on our 2nd year of it. We're getting together, we're getting people together so that they can collaborate on their own stories and their own comics and everything. So it's overall just a really killer comic community that happens to have free comic education.
Yeah, and when we you guys, anybody who's been around a lot of the Comic Cons, you probably remember Buddy Scalera. He's written for Marvel, and he's done, even back when he was at Wizard, used to do these educational panels at all the shows. So you did the professional track panels. It was always, comic book school presented by Buddy Scalera, but it was basically Buddy and he'd bring on pros that he knows from his work at Marvel or when he was a wizard, and he would interview them, and it would be like script to page, and they'd have a writer up there and an artist up there, or a writer and two artists, and they would draw the page and they would talk through it, or editors on editing, or social media for comic book creators in more recent years. And there was always, of course, Creator Connection, which was the greatest panel in the world, where you would go to the show with a stack of business cards, writers on one side of the room, artists on the other side of the room, and it was like speed dating for creators. And you meet so many people. I'd say probably the first 5 or 6 people that I worked with in comic books I met at Creator Connections. Obviously, in the last year, not been possible, the last year and a half, to do that type of thing anymore. So it's moved online. We have a YouTube channel now where Buddy still does the interviews with the pros. We have the forums that you've heard us talking about, which is the community, where the community exists. And then there's this publishing venture also where the creators can team up and write an 8-page short comic story or a 1 to 2-page flash fiction story that's illustrated. And we've been putting out the anthology for the last 2 years. So we're evolving while continuing the mission of Comic Book School, which is officially to help aspiring creators learn the craft and business of making comics. So there's the craft element, and then there's the business element also, how to manage your career and that kind of thing.
All right.
Nice. All right, that's a good nutshell version of it. Go ahead.
So, thank you. Oh, you mean Chris? Wait, yeah, because
Chris already answered.
Yes.
So
See, look at that. You're not even paying attention.
I wasn't sure if I can ask the next question. I wasn't sure, right? Don't blame me. Right? It happens. These things happen. It's brain fog. So the next question that I have, in continuation with this, is how large is CBS, the CBS community so far? And how much work goes into growing that community?
So there's a lot of work that goes into growing it. How large it is depends on what you're talking about. The first anthology, I think, had 33 creators. 27 of them, it was their first published work. But there are hundreds of people on the message boards. But it's really much larger than that, because a lot of times, like, we'll go out, we'll be talking about Comic Book School, and people will be like, oh yeah, I remember Buddy's panels, or I was at Creator Connections years ago, and there were, probably thousands of people between all the people who have been in the panels at New York Comic Con or in Chicago and in Wizard World or at any of the other shows they did over the years. It's difficult to put an exact number on how big the community is, but it's a community that continues to grow and evolve, going on shows like yours, having the online presence, with the forums and the YouTube channels. The publishing is new in the last 2 years as well. So it's ever growing. It's, we haven't reached everyone yet. We're trying to reach more people, but it's difficult to tell, because Buddy's been doing this for so long, and because Buddy's been so active in giving back to aspiring creators. He's got to be one of the most giving comics pros out there. I think written for most people you see who've written for Marvel aren't giving this away for free the way that he is, putting in the amount of work that he does behind the scenes. So its reaches now. We have an international group of creators now. In our anthology, we have artists from Australia, we have from Greece.
International.
Yeah. So it's the exact number is difficult, but over the years it's large.
It's just growing.
Yeah.
That's all you, buddy.
It's on me.
Yeah.
So the ideologies behind Comic Book School involve a lot of not just community growth and everything. It from based on everything that I saw, especially with Buddy's videos and things like that, you're literally trying to mentor and help other artists if, say, they're like in a funk or like they're just trying to move on. How important and what are the core values when dealing with that mentorship?
honestly, like values. I don't want to say, I don't want to be too crude when I say this,
Okay.
Mhm.
but don't be a jerk. The collaboration is everything. Community is everything. If you're not willing to make somebody better by being honest and by not being a jerk and being rude about it, then people don't help, don't mentor or whatnot. But for the most part, everyone that is part of the community and is able to work with each other and work with others or whatnot, give some advice or whatnot. Everyone just knows, be respectful. If you're being respectful, and if someone is giving you some advice, or like one of the things that we do, especially for the anthologies, is we try to make sure that everyone's following step by step of like the comic process. Everything from creating the idea to scripting the idea to penciling and then inking and coloring and all that jazz. Every step of the way, everyone's comics are posted online on the boards, on the message boards, and everyone is kind of expected to read through it. If you're part of the anthology, read through it, see what everyone else is writing about or the way they're going about their story. And then if you have advice or if you have some feedback or if you have anything like that to give, it's, as long as you're not a jerk about it, follow up on the boards. Let them know what your advice is. Let them know how you feel about like a twist at the end or something that like, maybe this doesn't work for me, or something like that. And the community is awesome. We've had a great experience with no one being a tool. Everyone is very helpful. You have some great people who are editors, like Ari. He'll go in and he'll write up a really solid chunk of feedback for somebody's story. And then you have people when it like during the art phases, it's like, okay, well, this angle doesn't work for this panel, or maybe the action would be better if you focused on this swinging of a bat as opposed to on somebody picking up a little nail or something. I don't know. But yeah, it's all about the feedback, being respectful, honest, and
Constructive. I think it's fair to say constructive.
Yeah, constructive is definitely yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to add a couple of things for the values as well. One of Buddy's core values, I mentioned it at first, was that everything is free, so that you're not going to and that's a big thing, because there are other comics education platforms that are really good, but they're not free. You have access. Everybody, they're not only not free, but they're expensive to varying degrees. And but that's the other thing is that it's very important, and one thing that Buddy tries to instill in all of us who work there is to learn how to be a professional. And that involves the thing what Chris was talking about with the schedule. That's being professional. Hit your deadlines. If you're supposed to have your script in by a certain date, have it in by a certain date. That's why we do the anthology, is to teach people how a schedule works, how a professional project is managed. And it's all based on, what Buddy does at the top of the industry, that you should be doing those same best practices all the way down. So he does a blog post with every step. This is how he pitched his editor on this Avengers story that he did. This is the same story when he plotted it out. This is the same story when he scripted it. Here's Ron Lim's pencils for his Avengers story. And he posts that within each step all the way through production in the end. And you're expected to, within reason, obviously in the last year, there's been major things that have happened in people's lives.
Yeah.
But within reason, you're expected to follow the schedule. And really, it's not, we accept everyone. There's not a traditional submissions process where normally when you submit to an anthology, we'd have a finished story. Like Charlie's an artist. I would say, hey, Charlie, you want to do my script? And he'd look at my script. He's like, yeah, I like to draw that. And then we wouldn't even send it anywhere until it was already drawn, until we had however many sample pages they were looking for in a summary. And I'd send it off, say Chris was the editor, and Chris would look at our stuff and he'd either say, yeah, that's cool, I want to publish you guys, or nah, that's not for us. And, you try to submit it somewhere else. We accept everyone from the beginning, but not everybody makes it through necessarily to the end, right? It's
Okay.
the people
It's an
who
endurance
learn how
track.
to be. You have to learn how to be professional, how to get your work in and get it in on time, and take that feedback from the community, and that the people who are able to make it through and to learn how to make it through, those are the stories that end up um, in the anthology. So the other thing, so it's to learn how to be professional on the one hand, but on the other hand, to take down barriers and to be accepting of everybody, no matter what phase of their career they're at. So we have people in this book, not just by other people who have written or drawn for for Marvel all the way at the top. We have people who are art students who this is their first thing that's out. I said a lot of the people in the book, it's their first published work, and we have everything in between. We have people at different phases of their career. We accept everyone and try to teach you how to be professional, and not just in terms of making the book, but also, you know, try to teach people how to be professional in their way they present themselves on social media, how they
Okay.
present themselves. Like, we'll have a discussion, like New York Comic Con's coming back, we think. But hopefully we'll all be there, you know, um, fingers crossed. But we'll be there. But how do you present yourself at the thing? So I remember
Okay.
that at the end of Creator Connection, Buddy would put up an email, and it'd be a template email of how you follow up with someone you met at a networking event, because people don't know. And what ends up happening is a lot of writers and artists are introverted. You meet someone, like I say, hey, Sean, here's my business card. I get Sean's business card. And then we don't talk to each other like till next year at the con. You're like, oh, wait, I kind of remember you. Yeah. So he's like, within a week, you follow up and take a
Mhm.
picture of this. And this is exactly what you're going to say. And he said, I met you at Creator Connection, Comic Book School Creator Connection. And it gives you like a template of what to do. So people who aren't necessarily comfortable, who maybe don't know how to do that, learn how to do that and learn how to act like professionals within the community. So that's why it's he always says the craft and business of making comics. So there's the craft element, which is actually making comics and making your book, but it's also the business element, and that's part of it, is learning how to be a professional within the comic books industry, um, so that you're presenting yourself in the proper way, and you learn what you're supposed to be doing from someone who has credibility because he's been there and done that.
Yeah.
I can imagine the networking part is just kind of like hard, especially when you're introverted. It's like one of those, because even for us, I would say Sean is more extroverted than I am.
I'm more social.
Yeah. That it took us a while to get used to like really networking. So I can see that being a part of the creativity part that people tend to overlook. The importance of, hey, it's not just about writing, it's not just about drafting and creating, it's also about networking and having that communication. So I can see that being a very important aspect of the mentorship and the program. My question, let me just make sure I'm reading this right. I don't have my glasses. Oh my god, my eyes. Geez, I wish I had something to read these with. Geektopians, which you can get right now, is a special pair of the Sean Luke
Right.
glasses. These glasses allow you to see anything crystal clear from the past to the future. That's the Sean Luke Past to the Future glasses. Get that here on
Past
Decorate.
to the future
Yes.
glasses.
This episode will
That's
have a
new.
lot. This episode will have a lot of photoshops. It's going to have you really
You
Photoshop.
need to get that old ad that was in the comic books when we were kids, or the X-ray
Oh my god, those
glasses with
bootleg
the
X-ray
swirl-
specs.
the ones with like the
Yo.
Twilight Zone swirl
Yep.
on the thing with a little hole in them. Yeah,
That you
You
can
need to
register
get that,
for on
put
the
that one
back
right
of
up.
every comic.
You know,
Oh
I
my
actually
God.
had one of those for free. I think it's still in storage. So like, damn.
So I have to ask this because as the more I learn about CBS and the work that goes on the anthology themes, are there set themes? Are themes chosen? If they are chosen, how are they chosen? And how long does it take from start to finish? Like an estimate. Once the theme is set, how long does that take? The
Well,
creative, yeah.
I can tell you the first anthology did not have any theme. It was just about creating a comic, collaboration. It was about making sure you got through the process. For the second anthology, the anthology that we're about to drop now is the theme was the time inn, and inn being like the tavern, like INN.
Okay.
And
Oh, okay.
Like a hotel or
yeah,
Yeah.
and it was a hard one. I will not lie. Hey, where did you guys come up with that? Because I wasn't part of that
So
process.
apparently, Buddy was driving down the Jersey Turnpike and saw an old motel, and inspiration struck, and he said, "You know what the theme of the anthology is going to be? It's going to be
Oh wow.
Time Inn." It was actually originally going to be the Time, like it was going to be the Time Hotel or Motel, but there was, he had to like get a unique name that was free of,
The
you know,
time in.
yeah. So it evolved from there. But yeah, he was driving down the turnpike. Like when you come over the bridge, there's all those little old motels there, and
Mhm. Yes.
something clicked in his in his writer brain. He's like, I want it to be the Time Inn, and
Okay.
that's how he came up with it.
Yeah.
That's the official story. I just know when he I don't know how long he'd been sitting on it or when that happened, but he was teasing it for a couple of weeks in the meeting, and then he revealed it to the community, and he said, "This is what you're going to write about." But the thing was, even within that theme, right? He's pushing us to do certain things. So when I heard the Time In, I was thinking like Twilight Zone type of thing, and the horror story. But I had written this superhero spoof satire for the first anthology, and Buddy's like, "No, you should write the same character." And I was
Mhm.
like, how am I going to write this character, this superhero spoof city thing, for the Time In? And that took me a while to process, to come up with an idea of how to do that, because he said that's what they'll do. He's like, an editor will come to you and they're like, we need whatever character book you're writing on, like we need Batman Christmas story in the 1800s like style thing, and go ahead, write it, you have a month, like. So, and you don't have to do that, but he encouraged us
Yeah.
to continue with the same properties. So, that's another thing. Like, you're not really, I mean, you had to at least tangentially be connected to the theme, but it was pretty loose. And Buddy will give you pushes and be like, you really should try it. And not everyone, you don't have to,
Mhm.
but it's often a good idea to at least try to see if you can make it work.
Interesting.
Yeah. Like I'm not gonna lie, I didn't use my character or my stories from the first anthology at all.
Okay.
Yeah, I went with a completely new IP idea, and I think it worked out better for me and my creativity because of that. But yeah, this one was a very interesting theme,
Mhm.
and to just write anything on this theme, I think is an accomplishment for anybody.
So are you guys thinking like for the next one, like that should be the same thing? Like I take it like Buddy comes in, he's like, he's like, let's MacGyver this. All right, I need this, a paperclip, a
Yeah,
rubber
yeah.
band,
That's exactly what it is. That's
and a
exactly what it is.
and a cafe.
There's a famous Ray Bradbury quote about jumping off the cliff and building your wings on the way down, and
Oh.
that's kind of like, that's Buddy's life philosophy. Like
Okay.
he lives that. So
I
Don't
need
know.
he'll come in, and we have no idea what the theme is going to be next time. But I think we liked having the theme. I think it's
Okay.
good. I think it's good for the anthology to have a theme.
Yeah.
It gives it a focus. It gives it a unity. Like when you present the book, that you have a book that's around a
Mhm.
certain theme.
Mhm.
But in terms of what the next theme will be, or I have no idea. He'll
I want to
probably
be in
come
the
in with
room
it.
when the next one comes in, and
Uh,
this is kind of how I picture it. Like he walks in, serious face, and he's like, "I need a salt and pepper shaker, a duck, and a movie theater. Make it happen." And you guys are like, "What?"
I'm up for it. I'm not gonna lie though, the cohesion between the stories,
Mhm.
um, It's actually really cool because
Okay.
whereas the first anthology, it was just whatever you want.
Okay.
And so you got a hodgepodge of different stories that a lot of the stories either a lot of it was action based. Whereas like this anthology, it's like, okay, we've got a similar theme. We've got, we're all rocking on the same theme, but you've got some great sci-fi. You've got some solid action. You've got some post-apocalyptic stuff. You've got some fantasy, like sword and sorcery style fantasy. So it's really cool to see where the different creators have come from using the same theme and all just being able to throw different genres and different types of stories all together around that same theme. And I think it really, really, like he said, it's like, it was solid planning on Buddy's part, and I think that it definitely did help the anthology evolve and grow from the first one.
And the other thing is, it's not just comic. We have a comic book section, and then there's a flash fiction section where it's prose writing with illustrations as well. So let's say you come in late to the challenge, right? And because we're on that schedule, whatever, might not have time to pencil 8 pages, right? To ink 8 pages and to color 8 pages, you're behind schedule. You go up with one of the flash fiction writers, you could do a 1-page illustration that's more similar to like a cover or a pinup or a single page, and get yourself into the anthology that way. But then you're in, and you have something, right, and you're ready. And when you start the next time, you're in already, and it gives you published work, and it gives you a chance to get your stuff out there, to be illustrating things that somebody's writing. So that there's a lot of different ways. We don't want to make it sound too ominous or too rigid. There's a lot of different ways to get in there, and different ways people can be flexible around it, especially with the way people interpreted the theme. People were really creative in the way they interpreted it.
I mean, I'm over here thinking about ideas right now. How long does it usually take from like beginning to end?
The theme was dropped, I think, in January?
I think we started in January.
It was around January, and then the ball really got rolling like late January, early February, and up until now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh wow.
So the anthology is supposed to be released at New York Comic Con, like it's supposed to be a New York Comic Con release, so that we kind of working backwards from that. Last year it went until December because there was no New York Comic Con, so there wasn't that hard deadline. Ended up being the end of the year being a deadline. This year, really wanted to have it so that he could announce, at the panels, like we have this book. It's a free download on the site. It's not like there's going to be physical books at the show, but he still wanted it to be a New York Comic Con release. So using that as the deadline, then working backwards how long each step should take. And actually the original schedule was created by our editor, Dee Alley, who has a background in project management, and she came up with a schedule for her own work and showed it to Buddy, and then Buddy kind of made adjustments based off of how comics work, and between the two of them, they came up with this schedule over a number of months, and we kind of used that as the template for the challenge each year. So after the first year,
it kind of just worked for every. Okay.
Yeah. So it was, obviously slightly modified between last year and this year in terms of the time periods and the exact dates and that kind of thing, because you learn from the first time you go through it. It's probably going to be modified slightly next year, but the basis for it, the basis for the schedule is Dee Alley's schedule, who came from the motion graphics animation world and was first starting to get into comics, and how she came up with the schedule, and then Buddy kind of edited it to fit the comic book world, and that's the schedule that we're using.
All right. So I'm going to hit you guys with a continuing question, as far as mentoring. But before I ask you that, if I was to send you guys a pair of Sean Luke Speedos,
my God!
I'm sorry. It's just I'm so sorry. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
XL. All right.
Chris has got a Conan over there needs the loincloth version.
Yes, I will do it. Make sure it's got the like not the buckles, but like the those like bolts or whatever that were in them around the waist.
I think in the production line we do have a loincloth Sean Luke set. It's a Speedo and loincloth set. Why you shake your head, Sean?
We're not
happening.
doing the Tarzan look. Appreciate
Just
it, but no, thank you.
Just like the Sean Luke calendar is going to happen that we keep talking about, that we're going to donate the money to charity. This Speedo thing is going to happen. We're gonna make money off of that ass. I'm gonna make money off of it. We're gonna sell you. That's how or
How
brand
does it
you.
feel? How does it feel to be prostituted out?
Whoa!
I'm used to this already. I'm used to it.
So this money is either going to go to charity or to bail. Is that?
Yes, that's exactly it. That's exactly it.
Geektopians right now. I think they're using wrong words. The word they're looking for is branding. We are branding, Sean. We are branding.
That sounds worse.
Branding sounds better.
No,
think about it.
Yeah,
Sean,
you're literally gonna poke my ass and brand it.
Oh,
you're gonna have SFS on my ass just burnt into it.
I mean that
It's
is
actually gonna be PLL.
Isn't that the modern way of claiming product now? I mean, isn't that the modern way? Like, what is that? Copyright? What is that? That's the modern way.
It's
that's a trademark.
Yeah.
You're branded SFS trademark. There you go.
Anyway,
so, on the topic of mentoring, because I do have this question for both of you. In your own experience, what are the most common challenges that you see creators face as they work on anthology? Yeah, it's a hard hitter, I know.
The challenges that like people have faced while doing the anthology. Okay. I tend to think that there are some people that haven't learned how to learn yet.
Okay.
Does that make sense? It's one of those things where, okay, you're giving me feedback. You're giving me some form of criticism of some kind, some way to evolve my story or make it better. I don't know how to accept that yet. Okay. My idea is my idea, and I'm so stuck in it, and I have to do it this way. And that's probably the biggest challenge I've stumbled upon. It's some people they're not able to understand that on anybody's first pass, second pass, and maybe even third pass, it's not a complete idea. It's not a finished final product. And having that outsider who can poke you a little bit and give you a little bit more creativity, it's not more, but it's like give you a different idea or something to kind of assist your idea or alter your idea so it can, flourish better.
Okay.
Some people can't accept it. They're so like, no, this is the way I want to do it. And in the long run, it ends up hurting their product because they're not able to adjust or make the changes that are necessary for it to be not necessarily more mainstream, but more understandable.
Okay.
Or something like that.
I mean, I agree. I agree with that to a certain extent. I agree that people need to know how to make things, like, if they haven't done it before, they need to know how to make things professional, and they need, we've had, I would say the time management has been a big issue for some people in terms of sticking to the schedule and hitting the deadlines. But I think that the biggest thing, and I find this in a lot of teaching, is that people don't know how to ask the questions that are going to help them the most.
Okay.
So if I give you my story and I say, here it is, give me feedback, I have no idea what I'm going to get. I don't know you don't know what I'm looking for. You don't know, they don't know how to ask those questions. Like often when I post my stuff on the boards, I'll say, this is my story. I'm having trouble with the page turn from page 3 to 4. I don't know if this should go on here or should go on the next page. Okay. Because that's what I'm struggling with, right? Do you think this is necessary, right? And When I'm asking, I'm saying, Chris, as a writer, as another writer, would you put this line? Would you put this on page 3? Would you put this on page 4? And that's going to be helpful to me because that's what I'm struggling with. If I'm posting it and I'm not asking that question, and I get the 3 of you to give me feedback, none of y'all might address that because you don't know that that's what I'm struggling with. You know, if I'm saying, and I find this all the time, right? Let's say I'm worried that I make an allusion in my story, right? I do that a lot. I allude to something, some other work of literature that's come before. And let's say it's not like, something that's vastly well known. And I'm like, do you get this allusion or not? Right? Do you is this too obscure? And if they don't, like, let's say you don't get the illusion and no one gets the illusion and it goes over everyone, and it's like, maybe it's too obscure an illusion. I'll never know that if I'm not asking about it. But myself being aware as a creator and knowing that I might make an illusion that's too obscure. If I can ask, like, did you get what I was referring to here? That's going to be more helpful to me, and that's going to guide my feedback. I'm having if I'm an artist and I'm having trouble with the flow. Does this page read like, say I'm doing a non-conventional layout or some sort of spread or something, and I'm like, what order did you read these bubbles in? Because somebody might not give me that feedback and it might not be readily apparent. But if it's something that I know that I'm not sure about in my own work, and we all have those things that we're not sure about in our own work, those questions, those are the questions you need to be asking. And if you're not asking the questions, you may or may not get the answers.
So it really comes down to knowing when or how to ask specific questions.
Yes.
Yeah. I had this issue a few months ago. We were shooting one of the films that we keep talking about, Edward v. Red, and we shot it from one angle instead of shooting multiple angles because we only shot what we could in time. And I sent this to a group of people, and the moment I sent it to them, I realized my mistake and I did not follow up on my mistake. And I said to them, "Can I get your feedback?" And I got the worst feedback ever, which was 0 to none feedback because they asked the question based on how I asked it. Then I sent it to another person, and just when I went to go ask them for their feedback and be more specific, they said to me, "Hey, before I look at this, what would you like me to look at specifically?" And I in that moment, even though I was already about to say that, I got the importance of, if you're going to share your work, it's about being very specific on what you're sharing and what you're trying to get back from it when it comes to like constructive feedback. Chris, something that you said a few minutes ago that I wanted to kind of touch on, and this is a question for both of you. Do you think that the reason why a lot of creators at times have problems learning to either be ask specific questions or taking constructive feedback is because they're so used to working solo, and now they're placing themselves in an environment that is forcing them to break out of that personal space and be not just network but work as a bigger picture.
Yes. Move on. Go ahead. No.
That was short and sweet.
You like that? No, I do think that a lot of creators who work solo, they encounter that slight single-mindedness or not. And going back to like what you guys just described as far as like the learning process, the understanding feedback and understanding the type of feedback you want kind of is like that level of learning that I was talking about that creators haven't reached yet, because you got to learn to accept the feedback. Once you learn to accept the feedback, then you have to realize, okay, what kind of feedback exactly you want.
Okay.
And so like, I think you guys are like that level of guru. Like you're like, I am the ultimate learner now. And I think, yeah. So I do think that comes with working with others in general. like
Okay.
networking, working with others. Ari uses his wife to read his stuff. That's another person that's outside of him. It's external. It's anytime you can get that external feedback and you're looking for it and you are actively pursuing I needed help on this. Okay, give me some look on that. When you are hungry for feedback, you know what kind of feedback you want, and you're willing to go out and get it. It definitely plays into your favor a lot. And working with others in general helps you get that feedback easier and learn it, and it teaches you how to get that feedback easier. Because if you're like the one trick pony who you write, you draw, ink, color, all your own stuff, there's a good possibility like the checks and balances aren't there.
Okay.
So one thing that I want to add about this particular community that's kind of unique in the comic book world is that one of the things that I found most helpful in terms of the feedback process is having access to the artists as equals. So what I mean by that is that as a comic book writer, usually what's going to happen, I'm going to say, "Oh, you want to draw my script?" And you're going to say, "Sure." And I'm going to hire you to draw my script, and I'm going to pay you a page rate, and you're going to draw what I ask you to draw because I'm paying you to draw it. And you might not be comfortable coming back saying like, "Hey, this might work differently because, because that's the nature of a work for hire situation, right? That's how that type of relationship works." Then whereas on this board, because we have writers and artists, and everyone's giving feedback each other, and because we're not, it's not like I've hired you to draw my story, you've hired me to write your story, this type of thing. You can get honest feedback that you wouldn't have in one of those one-to-one typical business relationships that you would have in a comic book. So it's different in that sense, because even if I'm working, let's say I'm working with you, Charlie, right? And then Sean's on there, and let's say Sean's another artist, and he's gonna see what we post, and he could say something as someone who's not even on the creative team, who doesn't have even the, you might be more reluctant with someone who you're even if it's not a work for hire thing, you might be more reluctant to offer that kind of feedback than you would be to someone on your own creative team. But you're able to get that perspective that you might not be able to get, and you might not be able to get completely honestly in a traditional way that these things are usually made. On the message boards, everyone's there, and there's enough people that you're able to get that.
So I like
Writers
that.
from artists from writers, that kind of thing.
I like that community feedback is encouraged and it's welcomed. I think that definitely is that's like a tool. Maybe a tool is the wrong word, but I'm gonna coin that as that's a very helpful tool. That like whether if you're creating something, even if you're having a mental block or you're not sure where to go, you have another source. You have a group that can always like chime in and you can pull from and say, okay, you know what, that might work. Okay, I didn't see it from that perspective, so I think that's pretty cool. All right, gentlemen, we are rounding towards the end, so now we're going to jump backwards a little bit and ask very deep. Every question has been deep at this point. So I'm going to ask a question, and you guys can go in whatever order you want to. Could you mentor yourself at the following ages: 16, 21, and 25? Could you find yourself mentoring yourself?
Kind of time machine.
I think so at all three ages. I think in general, one of the cool things about and I'm pretty sure Ari will also give a thumbs up for this. Part of being a martial artist for many moons, it has allowed us to kind of learn how to be mentored, how to be taught. And so I mean, I got my black belt at a younger age. I'm pretty positive that I'd be able to get some feedback at the age of 16 that can definitely, make me better. Same thing at 22, 25. I think that all three of those ages, I'd be pliable, bendable.
Okay.
Nice.
I mean, I think I could. I don't know that I would be the best mentor for myself. I might be too similar to myself.
Okay.
You grow, but sometimes you need a different type of thing. I think, 16 definitely. That's I age of kid I usually work with. I'm a high school teacher. I know how to deal with 16-year-olds. 22, you said?
16, 21, and 25.
21 and 25. Yeah, 25 was a more than a 25. At 21, I don't know. It's tough to, But yeah, I mean, it's long enough. I mean, that's long enough ago. I think it would be fine.
Hindsight is a beautiful thing.
Okay.
Mhm.
That's what I will say. I'll be like, you know what, Chris? Listen, mother. All right, you got to get this right because I'm suffering in the future.
I would want to do one of those things where I didn't know it was me. Like I would
Okay.
know it was me, but like 25-year-old me wouldn't know I was me. I think I would be more receptive to that. So like, I
Talk
would
about
know
a cop out. Like,
Yeah, I'm gonna say that sounds a little cheesy right there.
I would I want to go the Biff route. I want to go back in time and just hand myself an almanac, like
just to make yourself rich and change the entire timeline.
Yes. All right.
Yeah.
If Marvel and DC can do it, then radio can do it.
Yeah, but they do it like every other week though. That's
And there are actual consequences to that.
See, this is where the shit begins. First of all, Marvel does it because they will give us DC does this too. They will give us a really, really, really good story arc, and just towards the end, do something that is just unwanted. They didn't need to do it, and they have a board meeting, and it's like, hey guys, we messed up on this one. How do we fix this? And instead of just being like, hey, how about we just act like this is normal? Somebody has the genius idea of, how about we just revamp the universe? Crisis on Earth.
Final Crisis.
What is it? Marvel does. Marvel does.
Marvel
Brand New Days.
Legacy.
Brand New Day,
Age of Apocalypse. House of M.
Well, hold on.
Yeah, but those are standalone stories.
Those are supposed to be that way. That's a different.
Those were those that became canon.
Exactly.
Those are all resets. Those are all resets.
That's fine.
No,
they're not supposed to be like set resets. Those are supposed to be, what if this happens, becomes canon, and everyone, like some characters come from that canon who know about what happened.
The reality is the House of M storyline was not supposed to be canon, but it was so loved and the ending was so powerful, they literally turned it into canon.
But if you ever realize when they come out of it, when they come back into the actual universe, once again, it starts all over. You get a great storyline or a great story arc for a couple months, then something happens where they're like, "Hey, I'm trying to come up with a very good example."
If you want a good example,
Rebirth.
I was going to say,
E is for Extinction. As much as I love Grant Morrison, E is for Extinction is one of the best arcs, I think, within the X-Men franchise. No, all right, whatever. I ain't got to agree with me. Geektopian, whatever. Everybody was silent on that one. All right, maybe it's the name Grant Morrison.
I think Ari Rose, like,
no.
All
right.
Oh wow, wow, dang!
I think what it was y'all heard Grant Morrison, and you was like,
yeah, I'm sorry. That's his good. That's his one good story.
Oh
shit!
We're throwing jabs now. In the final few minutes, we're throwing jabs.
I did not mean one good story. I just meant that's a good story he has done.
We know what you meant. It's all good.
I can't stand Final Crisis. I can't. His Green Lantern run, and GL's my favorite character. From
but everybody loved that Green Lantern run.
Not me, my man, not me. Yeah, E for Extinction is a solid story, and you know what? That story, I believe that story was the first story to have the X-Men in leather in comics, right?
Yes, that's when they broke away from their
The colorful.
traditional, from
Yeah,
pockets
so-
everywhere. They broke away from pockets everywhere.
Pockets everywhere. Yeah, the
Yes.
pouches everywhere, and yeah. So if you're gonna call that a reset and a reboot,
I would say what came after. I would say so. After East Extinction, you go into House of M. So House of M is the climax that happens, and then when we come out of that, it's a new reset.
See, here's the problem that they have is that they do these things where you need to be reading too many books at the same time.
Mm.
And there's a certain segment of the comics reading world, or people who are interested in these things, probably people who are on the show, who watch the show, who go to Comic Cons, who become comic book creators, who do that. And then there
Yeah.
are certain people who don't, who want to pick up. I want to be able to go to the store, pick up a trade paperback of my 12 issues of story, make a complete story, and that's it. And I don't want to have to buy 50 other books just to understand what's going on in this one.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
what happens, that kind of forces them into resetting things because things get too big or too wide,
yeah.
and you have to
Convoluted.
eventually bring it back to a manageable size, or you're gonna not be able to get new readers
Yeah.
because it's too hard to catch up. Or,
Well, that's
you
why
know,
they
you're
did
not-
it in the first place, right?
So
Yep.
to me, I think a perfect example of that in the recent times was Civil War II. Right?
Oh,
That whole storyline was so convoluted and everywhere. Here's the part that kills me. The main thread of Civil War II was actually in a Captain America side comic, where you find out, not in the Civil War story, but through his own, that he actually helped facilitate this Civil War using the Prophet. Right? Why wasn't this in the main piece? Why wasn't this like, why didn't you tell the fans, okay, evil Captain America is a credible threat as opposed to just being a Hydra jumping off point for the wow factor?
I mean, like, think about the people who are going to who come from the MCU, right? Who
Mhm.
their first experience with these characters is seeing them in this thing, right? And they're like, "Oh, I like the Guardians of the Galaxy, right? I'm gonna go. I saw that movie. I like that movie. I'm gonna go find the Guardians book." So you go and you find the books from, those books that they were based on, and then you're like, "The hell is going on here?" It's why they didn't. I was like, they didn't even release them as trades when the movie came out, which I thought was very strange until
Mhm.
you realize what they are, and then you're like, wait, who is this guy? Wait, oh no. Then you ask someone who knows, they're like, oh no, you got to read this over here to find out. And then they just give up,
man.
and they don't become a comics reader, because it's too different, So it
Well,
used to
can
be
we-
like, I heard an interview
Mhm.
with Neil Gaiman. I've seen him read and speak many, many times. And one of the things he was talking about was being a comic book fan growing up in England, where they didn't have all the books in continuity. And he liked the old DC books that were standalone stories because they didn't always get consecutive issues, even on the same title. So he liked being able to read a story and finish the story and not having to go. And this is pre-internet, you couldn't get some of those things, right? And I think that where they get themselves into trouble a lot of the times is doing these big events too often, and then not being able to, like, I want to get like, Hush or Nightfall, 12 issues. I could read it. I don't even have to have ever read a Batman story before. I could read it. It's done.
Mhm.
That type of thing. A Daredevil Born Again, where there's background. You get more out of it if you know the background, if you were a Daredevil reader. But I could read that as a graphic novel, and it's that's my story. And I don't have to
Right.
read. I could come back to Daredevil 2 years later if there's another arc that's good, and like get the next one. Read a complete arc in 6 or 12 or whatever
So,
it is.
my question to that is, who do you think is worse at it, DC or Marvel?
Marvel. I'm sorry, did that come out too fast?
No,
Yes.
no, I agree.
Oh, you came out at a perfect time.
I'm telling you right now, I'm a Marvel baby. I love my Marvel more than DC. I do not like DC. I like Green Lantern. I like Flash, and I'll eat me a little Batman, just a little bit, as long as it's written right. All right, like the New 52 Batman. I only read the Snyder Capullo run. I didn't read any of the DC, the Detective Comics. I didn't read nothing else. Batman and was it Batman and Robin or nothing like that?
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't read none of the other stuff. I just read the Snyder stuff. That stuff was incredible. That being said, DC does, like, you've got the primary continuity that's pre-New 52. Then you got New 52. Then you got Rebirth. And I guess within Rebirth right now, I guess they're kind of maybe doing a little something different. But anyway, each one lasts like 10 years or so. Marvel, they give up after like 5-6 issues. And they're like, we'll reboot it right now. And it's like, excuse me, I'm sorry, we're just getting started. There is Marvel Now. There's all new,
all different,
all new, all different.
Yep.
Then there's Now. Then there's Legacy. All within like a 2-year span. Yeah. And it's just like you're gonna jump off now. I'm just getting used to this writer, used to this character.
I'm surprised they kept the Champions for as long as they did.
Oh my God, yeah. And part of the reason that it's also bugging me so much, I stopped reading comics in college because that's when I was away from home. My dad was the collector, college student, about that. So fast forward many years later, I got back into comics reading the Jeff Johns GL. Okay. That's what got me back into comics, got me back into DC and everything. I read everything DC that was coming out, involving those 3 characters I mentioned. And then I found out about Marvel Unlimited. And I've been reading Marvel Unlimited for the past 5 years. Okay. Every day I've read about 6,000 comics. Okay. When you mentioned Civil War II, I had like a little thing in the back of my head. Just I was like, oh God, don't get me started. Because it's what Ari said. Ari's over here. All right. So it's what Ari said. Like, in order for me to read Civil War II, I had to go and read Captain Marvel. I had to go and read Avengers. I had to go and read Captain America. I had to go and then because I didn't read the Captain Marvel 2014 series, issues 1 through 11 or 15 or whatever, I couldn't start Captain Marvel 2017 series. Issues 1 through 11. And it's like Marvel gives up after like 10 issues for a comic, and they're like, okay, this was a
good run. It was a good run. Let's wrap this up. It was a good run. It was a good run.
Yeah. 5 issues. I feel like a little more. So.
I want my Incredible Hulk number 867. All right, I want something long. I mean, if I have to go back and read it.
And that's the thing. Like, they had long terms. Like, look at Spider-Man. The original Spider-Man had such a long run. Then they had to freaking ruin it.
Yeah.
Fantastic Four had such a great long run. I would say. I think that's an overlooked.
Well, Fantastic Four had like 3-4 runs.
But in the end, what they end up doing is, okay, we're coming up to a milestone. This is the 800th issue of like Superman coming out, or Wonder Woman just hit 750 a couple years ago, right?
Yes.
So Wonder Woman 750 is coming out. You've gone through like 3 different reincarnations of Wonder Woman, but we're going to restart the numbering around 742. And then by the time we hit 750, everyone knows that the 750 is out. And it's like, this is a milestone. And Marvel started doing the same thing where it's like, okay, you've been through 4 or 5 different X-Men books. But issue number 700 is coming out soon. So we're going to start renumbering the new current series at issue 690.
Yeah.
So that when we hit 70 or 700, big milestone event, we can sell it better. And it's like, I think there was 3 or 4 different Uncanny X-Men's between 2000 and now. Like 3 or 4 different Uncanny X-Men runs in between 2000 and now. Like issue 1 to like 20 or 50 or whatever. So,
I'll tell you what Marvel's been doing a good job in. And I only know this because I have kids and because they've been marketing these things. They get it from the library. There's actually part of the New York Public Library summer reading pack, like if you signed up for their summer reading thing for a certain age. They've been doing these collected trade paperbacks for characters that they're doing other things with. Like I just recently, my daughter got the Loki one,
Oh
and
wow.
they got, because there was the Loki show, right? And it had four or five different Loki stories, ranging from like the 60s to like the 2000s, to
Oh,
try
that's
to
awesome.
give you an idea of some. And one of
Huh.
them, it was like was in the costume of the classic Loki. That
Yeah.
they'd have
Why
no
was
idea
it?
who that
Yeah.
was. Right? Who the hell is that, right? Because you're watching that show as a kid, you don't know what he looked like. They had the one with the famous cover with Thor and the Silver Surfer with on the Rainbow Bridge, like that.
Yes.
Mhm.
That one was in there, and then there was like this really slick 2000s ones that was that airbrush style type of thing with Lady Loki and all this, right? And it was actually a really good package for for grounding you, like exactly the kind of thing I was saying, like, oh, I really like Tom Hiddleston as Loki, and I don't know the comics or whatever, and that's a lot of people, and I want to go to see, like, what book can I get that's gonna give me the history of Loki and tell me who these
Yeah.
characters are, these
I mean, and
versions are
that's
like. And they've
and
been doing those little ones. They have like black and white kind of covers with like only the character. We have one for Miles upstairs.
Okay.
We have one for there's I forget. I know we have the Loki one. I know we have the Miles one. Um, I'm not sure because I haven't read them all, but we have 3 or 4 of them, and they've been pretty good with that kind of thing, especially for something like Loki that's so old. Um, and I think they should do more of that, and they should do more of that for adults. Like one of the things that really pissed me off
Go
recently
ahead.
was
Let it
that
out. Let it out. Go ahead.
was
Go
yeah,
ahead.
you're in the rant. Falcon of the Winter Soldier. They had that whole story with you know with the Isaiah Bradley and with the the first Black Captain
Black
America,
Cat.
and
yeah.
all that. And I said, okay, I hadn't read that. I hadn't read that particular thing, and it was like, this is the it's just a run. So I go to my comic book store and I find out it's called. I find out what it's called. I go in, I say, do you have this? Like, is there a trade of this that I can get? Because I saw it on the show. I want to read it. It's like, there's no trade of that. It's like, okay, can you get me the individual? First of all, stupid, right? You know it's going to be in the show. You know it's going to
Yeah.
be a
You
deal.
should do
You
like
know
at
people
least
are
a
going to be
re-release of Red, White, and
right.
Black.
Yeah,
Like
right. And then
Amazing series.
and then I say, okay, what about the individual issues? Can you give me that? He's like, that's going to cost you, like, to get even a readable issue that's going to cost a run. It's going to cost you like $300-400 to get it. And
Oh,
I was like, yeah,
jeez.
okay, whatever. So I go on eBay. I'm like, okay, fine, maybe I can. No, he's right. You can't find it for anything. Like, it's one thing to spend $20 on a trade paperback. You're not going to spend $300 to read. Things like that. They should do a better job of that with
well,
the
yeah.
tie-ins and things. That's because I will say, like, I am not the person who has read thousands of issues of Marvel Unlimited. Like, that's not been. I read a lot. Not everything I read is comics. I got back into. I read. My orthodontist had Thor and Daredevil, and those were my guys. Especially because it was a Frank Miller run when I was there, and I knew the Punisher through Daredevil, and I knew a lot of, and I loved Spider-Man when I was a kid. And then I kind of, like Chris, got out of it, and then I got back into it through Neil Gaiman backwards. I read Neil Gaiman's novels, and that eventually I got into him through, it was Douglas Adams, and then I read Good Omens, and from that I got both Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett. And then when I was reading everything Neil Gaiman had written, eventually I got to Sandman, and that got me back into the comic store, which was relatively new then. I graduated in 2000, so we're not that far out. There was
Oh,
still
man.
new Sandman stuff being made.
Yeah.
So that got me back into the comic shop, and I always found it difficult to grab myself. And I read a lot of those types of books also. I loved the Vertigo stuff. back that
Okay.
way.
Okay.
Sandman and Preacher and
Yeah.
these types of
The
things.
grittier stuff.
Yeah, the Dark Horse stuff.
Yeah.
I like the Sin City stuff, and and then and it was sort of like that whole group of British writers and artists that kind of, when you got into Neil Gaiman, you kind of went
Mhm.
into that, and that and it was in Garth Ennis and Alan Moore, and it was just sort of, there was like this whole, and that's how I got back into comics, and I've always found that difficult because I know I'm not going to be reading all. I just feel a lot of the times like I can't catch up.
Yeah.
And
That's what I've been doing.
that's what I appreciate about, like, say, that Loki book, is I thought that was really good. Now they did one of Luke Cage when the Netflix show was on, and that wasn't nearly as good. That was the Haphazard collection.
I feel like it's hard to do stuff like
You
that.
could do it well. I said they did it really well with Loki. They didn't do it as well with Luke Cage, but at least I appreciate the effort that they would have something like that you could do, because you want people reading the comics, right? As a comics, I always say, like, even as an independent comics creator, I am loath to criticize Marvel or DC. Like, why would I alienate half my audience or my potential audience? Like, at the same time, I do find it difficult to catch up into. A lot of times, you guys are talking about things, and not just you, but other people who I know through comics, and because you're reading different comics from the ones that I was reading, and I like those characters, and I liked those characters before, there are certain things that I've just never caught up on for that reason.
Now, I'm just, for anyone working at Marvel watching this, I'm not hating on the Marvel stories. I'm not hating whatsoever. All right, I just can't stand your numbering. I can't stand it. All right, because
now you're gonna get them to reset everything to be like number ones all across the board again.
Yeah,
This is where in the video we put the disclaimer: the views and opinions of Chris Burgess is not the views and opinions of Chris Burgess.
No. Like,
this is when he's going to be Conan. Like when he's
the views and opinions of Conan Burgos is not the same as Chris Burgos.
He's going to come by to the shows. They're going to be like, "Oh yeah, Chris, we read your thing. We like really think, But are you that guy? Are you that guy who said that stuff?"
Don't worry, they're not watching the show.
Don't worry, we'll be good.
That was Chris Burgos. Conan with a K.
Exactly, and the question correlated to directly, who reboots better?
Yeah, that is true. That is true. But all right. So before we go, I just want to say one final thing, right? To defend DC, right? You know how like Marvel, you said Marvel has these little like anthology books, but what I like about DC is that because they have a very stellar animated universe and things like that. What I loved is when I wanted to know more or read more or do more after the shows ended, DC actually provided for that. You understand? They had a Justice League cartoon comic, and they also have currently a reoccurring Batman Beyond that is actually really good, a Batman Beyond series, right? That expands so much into that mythos, right? So for me, like, DC is good as far as that, and then all they do is, instead of rebooting it, they just call it part of the multiverse, right? And just keep it moving like that.
Yeah, the DC's
so
really
since he defends DC so much, we can't have that. We can't have him just defending DC. So, gentlemen, it was great having you on the show. You guys are awesome. We have hit, yes, that was the power, Sean. We have hit you guys have officially hit the 2-hour mark, surpassing both Tone and Law at this point.
There you go.
I definitely want to have you guys back on, because I feel like talking, we can deep dive so much more into CBS as well as into just Marvel, DC, and all the other names that we didn't really mention, also like Dreamwave. But yes, let people know where they can find you guys at. Let them know what tees you guys off. And yeah,
You go for it, Ari. You go
don't be
first.
shy. Don't be shy
All
now.
right, so I'm A. Rubin. You can find me at the Surreal Ari. Twitter, most active on Twitter, also on Instagram and Facebook. My website, aarubin.com. Also, Comic Book School, comicbookschool.com. The forums, you link directly from the site, is create.comicbookschool.com, but it's at Comic Book School on anywhere that you're looking for it. And we'd love to have you join our community and be part of the next anthology.
Yeah, definitely, most definitely with that last piece. If you want a piece of that action, please, it's free publication and it's free criticism. It's free work, that you can not get anywhere else, all to make yourself better. So definitely check out comicbookschool.com and everything. My name is Chris Burgos. I'm at talesbeyond.com. You can find me on Facebook, on Instagram at Tales Beyond, on Twitter. I'm still working on that. I'm horrible with Twitter, but it's Live Tales Beyond. Yeah, that's me.
And also look for our anthology number 2, which we'll be releasing at New York Comic Con October 7th. This October 7th through 10th is Comic Con. We should have it up by then. It'll be a free download from the Comic Book School website.
That's awesome. Do you mind if we guys continue to promote that throughout our show?
Definitely.
Okay.
Oh, perfect.
So
Awesome.
we will talk more, so that way we can have links for that, and we'll even do like a promo for you guys. So we're going to send you back to the green room, and
only if I get the Speedos.
Once again, you got to let me know the size. You got to let me know the color.
XL with the
XL
loincloth.
With the loincloth print or the loincloth feel or whatever.
Or even the cheetah print at this point.
If you stay tuned if you watch this episode when it comes out on YouTube, most likely there will be a graphic of Sean Luke wearing, or his head stapled onto different Speedos, a model wearing different Speedos, and we can go from there. Yeah. So, all right, you guys, thank you so much, Ari. Thank you so much, Chris. Conan for coming on. We look forward to talking to you guys more about CBS, and take care. We're going to send you back to the green room. Bam. All right, Sean. So it's just you and me. That was a great episode. Episode 41.
Keeps getting longer and longer.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're popular. I think people like to come on and listen to us. Or at least listen to me. I don't know why. I think I'm really boring. Not really a narcissist, but or self-centered. But
yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the G is for Geek podcast.
Okay, we're not that classy, all right?
No, we're not classy. We're not ready for that level.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be promoting more of the Comic Book School on here and Anthology in the coming of days. We will be at NYCC. What day is that? We'll be there Saturday.
We'll be there
October
9th.
Thank you. I forget.
Saturday, October 9th, unless by some weird craziness they cancel at the last second.
Oh, I mean, fingers crossed that they don't. But we'll be filming an episode of Quickotopians or Geektopians Present Quickotopians, where we, for those who can't go to the con, we pretty much give you our insight and interview different artists, creators, tables, so forth and so forth. So look out for that, as well as we have a upcoming Quickotopians Live that we'll be doing on Facebook.com, I believe next week, about next week.
Well,
and
this is coming out this will air on the 29th.
Yes.
So it'll be airing at the same time this is.
Yes. Which right now we're playing around with time slots of when we release our episodes. Last week we released at 8:30, the last episode with Law. This week we released at 5 o'clock. So let us know what works for you guys on YouTube. As always, you can catch this podcast at 6 a.m. on Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. And if you want to see the visual version of this or the video version of this at 5 o'clock p.m. on Wednesdays. As always, I'm Charlie Radio Williams.
And this is Sean Luke.
And as always, we are out of here. Stay tuned.